Jalen Reagor getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out. All right, there's the whistle. That means welcome
tells you what time it is.
To Wednesday night and Belly Up Fantasy Live. How's everybody doing? I am Chase Thornton coming to you from the Mott and Bailey Basement Bar. With me, as always, Kevin Wilson down there in Texas. Kevin, how we doing?
We're doing great, and hopefully those that watched the show the other day knew that the cat destroyed our house pretty much, and so hopefully we have recovered from that. So,
excellent.
Yeah, so we're not putting up any banners just yet. We haven't figured out how to do that without the Miss Destructo over there. So that's a work in progress. But everything's doing good down here. We almost had the high temperature ever around here, so we're doing good.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, we've still it's cold and snow up here. We had snow today, but it's not. Yeah, it hasn't been the bitter cold that we've had a couple times already. We're all kind of wigged out up here. We're like, holy cow, we haven't had a winter up here like that felt like a real Wisconsin winter for a while, a real Northwest or Midwest winter, and we pretty much had one this year before Christmas even started. So here we go. But we don't have to worry about it affecting anything for a Minnesota playoff game because Minnesota's indoors. We don't have to worry about my Packers because they obviously choked on. We won't go
choked
there.
On cheddar?
They choked on something. I know that much on Sunday night. The Lions Lions won't be there either, but your Seahawks are in.
Seahawks are in, and I have to admit, Chase, that I thought before the season began that the Seahawks quite possibly might be the worst team in all of football.
I think we actually had that conversation a couple of times in the lead up to the season. None of us had real high expectations for that team.
No. And so, but here we are. They've got a 4,000-yard passer. They've got a rookie running back who has certainly made his mark. And so even before this last weekend, I didn't think that the Seahawks would be in the playoffs, but that's why they play the games.
I think, and maybe it's because I'm in a Packer echo chamber. I try not to be, but I think there were a lot of people, especially the way that the Seahawks had looked since the Germany trip. I mean,
oh yeah,
you've been terrible.
Yeah, they definitely tripped over their own feet quite often.
The way that the Packers had come on, and then the way that the Lions were everybody's darlings. I think that a lot of people were kind of coming around to the idea that the Seahawks wouldn't be in, even after they had that great run early in the year and kind of showed everybody they were good. I don't think anybody expected necessarily their defense to be as effective as it has been. And I think the major run of the whole entire thing is that Geno Smith turned out to be a guy. Geno Smith
turned out to be the man.
Geno Smith this season looked like the guy the Jets drafted him to be.
Right. Yeah. Not some guy you meet on the elevator or whatever, but the man. 4,000 yards passing. Now, who had him down? I didn't have him maybe down for 400.
Yeah, he was quarterback 5. Fantasy-wise, he was quarterback 5 on the season. No one had that on their bingo card.
Yeah, and so you could have
retired if we'd have gone to Vegas
wire early on in the season and rode him
right
until the cows literally came home. So
yeah, Biff and Marty couldn't have found that in the sports almanac from Back to the Future if they'd have looked, because no one had that written down anywhere that Geno Smith was actually going to be a guy in 2020.
And that show was on just the other day. And so it was not in that almanac.
No,
and if they're going to play the way they have,
you could write an entire chapter on Geno Smith from this season for that. I mean, no one had that coming. And good for him. Again, I will still say good for him.
Right. Yeah. And so, Ryan, I'm sorry to let you know that they took down the Jets. So revenge game, check.
Right. He had that. He got in the playoffs. He
got him to the playoffs, and he sat there and watched Russell Wilson stumble around like he's
set
55.
The Seahawks single season passing record.
He did. And so
how's that for a kick in the arse out the way out the door, Russ? Yeah.
Right. And so, you have a nice life, and we'll go ahead and take your fifth pick in the draft. And so
Oh,
things
man.
they're looking at, they got the fifth pick in the draft, they got their own first round pick.
That's the thing they come out smelling like a rose there because the Broncos were so bad compared to
Right.
what we thought they were going to be. That not only now did they come out of it, they have a playoff spot, they have their own draft pick, they have a quarterback who it seems like they're excited about.
Right. And they have every reason to be that. And so they don't have to take a chance for the second straight year on an unproven quarterback.
Denver
And
gives
so
them a
they can
top
get
5 pick.
They can get the defensive players that they need, because that's certainly where they need to focus.
Offensive line and defense.
Offensive
the
line,
two
which
areas.
they started this last year with Charlie Cross.
Yep.
And so offensive line, defensive line, their linebackers are in good shape. And so, so things are definitely looking up. And I'm sure Justin will have a few things to say to me before Saturday comes around, maybe
Yeah, he
afterwards.
probably will.
So I'm sure he will. And I haven't heard a peep out of him just yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're on it. It's one of the two shows. We're going to talk about the Saturday games tonight, folks. And the first one of the weekend is the Seahawks and the 49ers. Seahawks 49ers, that's going to be a 4:30 Eastern kickoff where time begins, as Kevin likes to say, 3:30 Central Time, where he and I live.
Was told that. That's not what I like to say.
No, well,
I live in the same
I don't
time
like
as
to
you.
say it, but you have to say it.
Right.
If that's how they act.
Vince and all those guys in the Eastern, time frame act like that's Genesis right there. And we're just following behind like the little dog. I guess they think we are or whatever, but
no, that's all right.
Yeah,
that's all right.
So they could be thinking they're the big dogs, whatever, but we know who's doing the real barking around.
So Seahawks travel to San Francisco. They're going to take on the 49ers there in Santa Clara. Is it still Levi's Stadium?
Right.
49ers are 7-point favorites, so a touchdown favorite there. Over under a 45.5 for this one, thanks to our friends at Quarter 4 for those odds and those the over under on that.
Yeah, it seems like Quarter 4 believes in my Seahawks more than Vegas does, because let's see here. I have Vegas has them down as a 9.5-point underdog. It went from 10 to 9.5.
Well, and it's an interesting situation here because as is the entire weekend, we've got matchups all over the place where teams have already played each other.
Right.
We've got matchups
Absolutely.
all over the place.
All over. So
we've got this divisional matchup in the NFC. We've got Bengals, Ravens in the AFC. That's a divisional matchup. Bills, Dolphins. That's a divisional matchup.
Cowboys, Bucks. You've got
we've got all kinds of teams that have already played each other. And it did not come out well for the
each other more than the 49ers and the Seahawks. You can be real sure about that.
So we've got 49ers, Seahawks. 49ers have already beaten them twice this season. Okay.
Yeah, and they talk about how it's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. And so I'm not a subscriber to that particular line of thinking. It would be great if that's the way it worked out, but
right. I don't know. I had said on a different podcast that I thought that Green Bay, of the 3 teams that the 49ers looked like they were going to play, I thought Green Bay had the best chance to beat them. Because of how they played recently. And then they came out the other night and didn't look like they really wanted to play.
It's interesting how we kept hearing, it's not fair that the Lions and Packers play after the Seahawks because the Lions won't have anything to play for. And all of that. And I didn't buy that for a single second. We talked about that on Sunday. And I'm like, have you met Dan Campbell?
I was just going to say, meet Dan Campbell, everybody.
And so,
yep. He said as much during the game.
And so it would have been pretty cool if both the Seahawks and the Lions could have made the playoffs. But
NFC East
not the way it worked out. But things, you got to think. Yeah, things are definitely looking up there in Detroit right now. So,
but Seahawks here now, they're coming off a win last week. They didn't necessarily look great last week against the Rams.
No,
Rams had a terrible year, but played them tough.
Surprisingly good offense, but on the flip side, the Rams have a solid defense. As messed up as they've been all year, they have a solid defense. So, and they would have won it in regular time, but they're very sure-footed cookier. wasn't sure-footed.
Oh man, what a crazy ending that was.
Yeah, bumped
Right?
it
That
off
had
the
to just
right
be a gut punch
upright,
for the
and
Lions.
yeah, and
Bounce it off the
so
upright, you think, hey, a shot, and then no, it's all over. But you mentioned Seattle's defense last week. Yeah, 5 sacks in that game. 5 sacks. They had a turnover in that game. Baker Mayfield had been playing, fairly well actually for the Rams. I think he's playing himself into a job somewhere next year. I don't know if it'll be a starting job, but I think he's proven that he should stay in the league. I think
he might
it's
stay right where
interesting.
he is. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays right where he is.
Well, and there's still all kinds of up in the air, speculation about Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay and the whole regime there. But I think if Baker Mayfield wants to look at his ideal scenario, all he had to do last week was look across the field at Geno Smith, another top draft. Geno Smith wasn't number 1 overall, but he was a top draft pick. Right. He was drafted to be a franchise quarterback. They gave up on him after a couple of years. He languished.
And rightfully so. Yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah, he was not performing.
He was not the Geno Smith we know and love today.
No. And he was not the Geno Smith that we had learned to know and love from college either. But that's Mayfield correct. Can look at that and say, hey, see, it's possible. Everybody gave up on Geno, and here Geno comes in this year. He's quarterback 5 on the year, like you said, 4,000 yards passing, sets the team record over Russell Wilson. That again would have been something we could have both gotten rich on in the preseason.
Oh yeah, if we had betted on that. I would have had my own bar behind me right now.
I would not have been shocked. I honestly probably would have thought that Seattle would end up going to Drew Lock before the Steelers went to Kenny Pickett.
Please don't let it be Drew Lock.
No. I remember that.
Yeah.
But it just, because I, like everybody else, like the entire rest of the league, except Geno and probably his mom, as he said, we wrote him off and he didn't write back. I would have thought, like, say the Steelers would have gone to a Pickett after. I didn't think that was actually going to happen even. I thought Trubisky might let Trubisky have sort of like what Atlanta did down with Marcus Mariota, where they waited to the last possible minute before they finally said, okay, we're going to go with Ritter. But
it proved that they had every reason to wait every last minute because he did not show out.
But they come out of it with a win anyway last week. Kenny Walker looked good in his tune-up for the playoffs.
Yep, he's had 3 straight 100-yard games against some tough defenses, which will certainly help him because now he goes up against the number 2 overall defense in the entire NFL in the San Francisco 49ers.
And therein lies the problem for this game.
I agree with that 100% because the strength of the Seahawks is clearly their offense. Clearly.
Right.
But it's countered full force by the strength of the 49ers, which happens to be their defense.
Right.
And
he had 47 yards rushing last time out against 49ers in their loss back in week 15 it was, I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't that many weeks ago. So
about a month ago. But you're talking about a team that is just absolutely.
And people like to talk about Buffalo or Cincinnati or whomever. You're missing the boat because the 49ers, I think, are the most dangerous team in this playoff. So
here's again where if you could somehow reverse the matchup, you'd be sitting pretty. Yeah, the 49ers are a top defense against literally every fantasy position except wide receiver. They are literally number 1 against running backs and kickers. Because their offense scores so much, they don't give up a lot of points to opposing defenses. They're 5th best, I guess, according to the rankings I'm looking at. They're 5th best against quarterbacks. They're 7th best against tight ends. This is a team that just does not, fantasy wise, they don't give up points. And that's because in real life, they're so damn good at everything that, you cannot.
That's right. Especially against the running game. And so it's going to be tough sledding for Walker. Like I said, he's went up. The Rams have a good defense.
Yeah.
The Jets have a good defense. He got 100 yards against both of them. So if
it's not
the
hopeless.
Seahawks are going to have any hope, he needs to keep the ball, chains rolling. But that's a tough sled for a rookie to go into the 49ers and do that. So
they give up the sixth most points. The 49ers now, they give up the sixth most points to oppose. And this is a season's long, data set by now. So this is who they are.
It is what it is, certainly by now.
This is who they are. And they give up the sixth most points this season to opposing fantasy wide receivers, which bodes really well for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
You got Metcalf and Lockett, which Lockett looked, he had that finger problem and everything. That's behind him. And
looked like it. He caught a touchdown, 4-7 for 50. He had a Tyler Lockett day.
When you look at Lockett, all right, here we go. Lockett, 9 touchdowns. 9.
Yeah.
And he didn't play
receiver
every
13
game.
On the year.
So.
Yeah. Lockett and Metcalf. Lockett ended up the year wide receiver 13. Metcalf, wide receiver 16.
And he would have been higher.
They've literally got 2 number 1 receivers. They've literally got 2 number 1 receivers.
No question. 2 top wide receivers.
Yeah. So I like them in this matchup.
Right.
I like them in this matchup.
They can take advantage of the San Francisco defensive backs.
Right.
You just got to hope that the rest of that game plan works out.
Because that's going to happen. Lockett and Metcalf both had 7 catches out of 9 targets last time they played. I mean, those guys are going to get open enough. They're not going to get crazy deep balls unless you blow a coverage completely, but they're going to get theirs. What you said, I think, is a key point. Can they get Walker established enough and get something out of him to complement that? Because if it does come down to the point where they're not running the ball at all and they're down and they've got to throw, now San Francisco's
never
put you
a
in a
recipe
position
for
where
success. I guess unless you're Tom Brady, what I mean? So.
Right. So, but I do like Lockett and Metcalf in this one matchup.
The only thing that gives me pause right there, because the 49ers have 20 interceptions.
Oh yeah.
So they can get the big play.
And they're coming off a game where they had 3 sacks and 4 turnovers. I mean, now granted they're playing against David Blah, but
yeah, what a last name that is. I think I might, petition somebody to change that, but that's just me.
That dude bounced around the league quite a bit this year. He went from, I think he was originally with the Browns. They had him with the Browns. Then he went he was with Lions trying to make the team in the preseason. It was kind of one of the darlings of the HBO Hard Knocks series they did with the Lions in the preseason. Got released, bounced around a little bit. Ends up being the starter at the end of the year for Arizona. But that aside, they're coming off a game, like you said, where they had 4 turnovers, 3 sacks. They average over an interception a game.
You might want to just throw that game out.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Even if
they played,
even if you take the 4 interceptions out,
they
still got a touch. They still got an interception every game.
Right.
If they had 20, take away that 4, they still got 16 interceptions in 16 games. So they're averaging 1 a game at least.
Right. So they'll give up yards, but when it comes time, they've got defensive backs that can make the big play.
And we know that they can pass rush, and Fred Warner's a beast, and Bosa, everybody that they have on their team. But it's just not a great matchup in terms of trying to get any points. If you're looking at DFS wise, if you're in a fantasy league, a playoff league, I know playoff leagues are, a lot of times it's with your home league guys. They'll just, let's just redraft for the playoffs or whatever. But I do like the 49ers. In this matchup as well.
Yeah. Especially when you look at, Seahawks have looked better, no question about it. Mm-hmm. But they're the 30th ranked defense when it goes against running backs. Right. So that's not a good thing when you got CMC and Elijah Mitchell staring you down the barrel.
When they are the worst team in football, fantasy wise, against tight ends, and they're playing one of the best to do it in George Kittle this week.
And George Kittle, you mentioned that. George Kittle has been superhuman.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks. He has 7 touchdowns in his last 4 games.
Well, he had 2 2 touchdowns the last time out against Seattle, and he's coming off a 2 touchdown game.
That's right.
You're talking about one of the best in the game against one of the worst defenses against that position in the game. So for Daly, It might be worth ponying up for Kittle, even though
yeah, you might want to put down some ducats for
right
for Kittle. And everybody was wondering, well, how far can the 49ers go with a guy named Purdy? Well, pretty doggone far.
Go pretty far, I think, right?
Yeah, because he has not lost a game.
No.
Right? Not one.
No.
And
he had thrown. Now, here's the thing. Brock Purdy has played. He played 9 games, I think, this year, but I think he's had 6 games essentially where he was the primary or starting cornerback ever since Garoppolo went down. He had thrown 2 touchdowns every game like clockwork, and then he had to go and screw it up against the Cardinals and throw 3. Are you kidding me? This dude, he does not look like a rookie. He does not look like a guy who would have gone last in the entire draft.
No, and as you mentioned, he's had these games to get the jitters.
And this team has not suffered for it.
Not that he ever had any.
No.
But, as we all know, the playoffs is a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
And so, but he's got that behind him. And the offensive line has protected him. So, yeah, so the 49er offense wins big over the Seahawks defense, unfortunately.
Brock Purdy, Purdy, he was quarterback 33 on the year, but like I just said, he essentially did that on the strength of 6 or 7 games, right? So he was, and if you look at his points per game basis, and extrapolate that out over a year, he was a top 20 type quarterback. You can win a Super Bowl with a top 20 type quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't necessarily lighting the world on fire.
Jimmy G last year. We got the blueprint already.
Right. We know that they can go in there and do that. Plus, this year they've got Christian McCaffrey, Mr. All-World himself.
And unlike Jimmy G, Purdy don't turn the ball over.
Right.
As Jimmy G had the penance to do just about, when the 49ers had the game in the bag, all of a sudden, interception.
I think he threw 4 interceptions on the year, something like that. But one of those was in
I got it written
a little bit of mop-up time in week 6 or 7. I mean,
4 interception.
Yeah,
that's right.
And really only 3 of those came during his time as the starter. The one was
they threw him in at the end of the game. 67.1% of his passes. You'll take that. 13 touchdowns, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. 2 in every game until he, went binocular.
Last week.
Yeah. So you got him. You got CMC. You got Mitchell. You got Ayuk. We don't know for sure about Samuel at this point. And they may not need him anyway.
What a disappointment Deebo Samuel was this season.
Well,
just from his health standpoint, but also
health, and he only had 5 TDs on the season. No,
he was not, and they were not necessarily leaning on him, and they didn't have to, especially after they got McCaffrey, because I said it when they got him in my trade deadline recap. I mean, McCaffrey can do everything Deebo can do. So now you have 2 of the same guy on the team.
He of course we know he can run it.
Right.
So
well, what a cool thing you can line up with one of them out wide, one of them in the backfield, and you want to flip the formation. All you got to do is have one flip the flip.
It's like you go to your gadget drawer, right? And you pull it open, and whatever it is that you needed is in your gadget drawer. That's CMC.
And then they also get, on top of that, they get Eli Mitchell back last week, and he probably scores 2 touchdowns.
And so that's what I'm saying. So you got the double barrel shotgun sights on the Seahawk defense, and that's not good.
No. So here we're looking at again. Who, if we're playing in a let's start with DFS. If you're trying to build a DFS lineup this week for just this week,
don't lose it in the first game of the weekend.
Who do we like from this matchup here? I think we've already talked about Lockett and Metcalf, and honestly, I think they're the only 2 that I want to touch from that matchup, just because it's such a bad matchup for Noah Fant. Plus, he doesn't. He gets the bulk of their tight end passing targets by now.
Please, please. Don't.
So I don't like anybody except Lockett and
mention
Metcalf.
His name out loud. All right.
I like Walker. I like Walker, but I don't like him in this game. And so I don't want to take my one shot on him.
Right.
I love him as a player. Right. And if they can get past this game
somehow. How about 4.6 yards per carry? How about that?
He's a great player. He's a great player.
That works.
Running back 18 on the season, and he didn't play the full year.
Right. because he
For
had
a team with a
Rashad
bad
Penny,
offensive line.
and Rashad Penny was blowing the doors off. He was averaging 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So
they've got a couple of guys there.
if they
If they
can
could
keep
shore up
guys-
that offensive line, man.
Yeah.
But
So
so there's our Seahawk starters. I actually do like. I mean, I think their kicker has a good game too. Myers has been good all year. He was kicker 3 on the year. He was tied with Brett
get
Maher.
the right upright, we're good to go.
Right. Yeah. If you can, hit it on the inside half of the upright.
Right.
So it sneaks in.
Right.
But tied for kicker 3 on the year with Brett Maher, but he had like 5 or 6 more field goals than Maher did. Maher kicked, I think, a few more long ones than he did. Maher 60-yard attempts every 4 kicks or so, it seems like. But I do like Myers to score in this game as well. I think he's going to have to, because I don't know how many red zone trips they're going to actually make. So, I mean, I like him as well if you want to go there on things, but I like Lockett and Metcalf from Seattle. On the other side, the 49ers, obviously you like Christian McCaffrey. It's whether in DFS, it's whether you want to pay up for him or not.
I would say yes.
Eli Mitchell is there.
You want to pay for him. Yes.
Mitchell will be cheaper.
He's cheaper, and he's the double barrel of that shotgun. So
right. So, I mean, you've got a choice there. If you pay up through the nose for McCaffrey, you're going to have to skimp somewhere else. You're going to have to skimp and pick out a wide receiver somewhere else that you like. Maybe one of the backup guys for the Chargers or one of the Jones brothers from Jacksonville or whatever. But if you pay up for McCaffrey and DFS, you're going to have to short yourself somewhere else. Same way with if you go with Kittle, but I like Kittle at tight end. He's got the best matchup you can have.
How could you not?
He's the best tight end left in the NFC. Who's
better in the AFC?
Tight end 3
Mark Andrews.
No, but I mean, you're talking Kelsey was number 1. Kittle was tight end 3 on the year.
Right. Kelsey's number 1 in every league, and it's been that here to Timbuktu.
It's been that way. I mean, Kittle is tight end 3 on the year.
You're gonna have to pay through the nose if you're gonna go with Kelsey. So,
but Kittle, you're gonna have to pay more for Kelsey. But Kittle's got such a great matchup this week.
The great matchup, as you said, and
I don't like Debo.
No, because Debo's not even healthy. Hard to say. We don't know if he's healthy right.
That's the thing. Now he did get a little bit of run last week.
CMC cancels him out. Not cancels him, but
he only had 4 opportunities last week. Debo had 1 rush for 4 yards. He had 3 targets, only caught 2 of them for 20 yards. 24, 3 or what is that? 4.5, not even 4.5 points is not going to get it done for you from a fantasy standpoint.
No. So so hands off of Debo.
But Ayuk
against
the team that
got a guy that may not have to pay as much for, then there it is right there.
Seahawks gave up the 30th most, the second fewest fewest yards to opposing wide receivers. They're good against wide receivers.
That's the strength, if you want to call it that, on their defense.
That's the one strength on their defense, because they give up a ton to tight ends. They give up a ton to running backs. They're kind of middle of the road against quarterback, which you've got a middle of the road quarterback facing them. If you did pay up for McCaffrey or Kittle, Purdy would be a little bit cheaper option than some of your
Purdy would be a pretty good option, I would think.
Right.
If you're looking at that, I know he's Mr. Irrelevant, whatever. You could put all that in the closet.
Right. And he's not going to have a ton of throwing yards or anything like that in theory. But I mean, when he throws 2 touchdowns a game like clockwork, would you take 2 touchdowns and 200 yards and no turnovers out of your quarterback?
That's the key, no turnovers, because some of these other quarterbacks that we're going to talk about do have turnovers.
I like, and I mean, obviously Gold, their kicker, their defense. I would start their defense here this weekend if I had a dog in the fight. If you want to talk about now, like the playoff league,
which I do, because I got my Seahawks shirt on.
There you have it.
Doesn't matter to me if they're 20.5-point underdogs. I got my Seahawks shirt on.
So if you want to talk about a playoff league where you're drafting guys that you have then for the entire playoff run, the strategy is always how many points can I get out of a guy before he's eliminated, and who's going to go.
Right.
And to some extent, you have to know who your picks are for each game in terms of who's going to win. before you go in and decide, okay, yeah, I want to take this running back. I want to take that quarterback. If he falls to me, I want to take this, because having Kenneth Walker is all well and good. He's a good running back, but if they're done after this one game, you're out a running back for the rest of the playoffs here.
Right. And it's not, as you mentioned, it's not a good matchup in the first place.
But so if you think the 49ers are going to win, 49ers are actually obviously, and they're a good offense. And at this point, there's not a ton of not good offenses left.
They've won 10 and straight. So what's to make you think they won't win this game?
Exactly. They're really good on offense. We feel like they're going to make a bit of a run. We feel like they're going to have at least 2 games, right? At the most, anybody's got 4 games. At the most, somebody's got 4 games here. If a wild card round team makes the Super Bowl, they'll have 4 games in the playoffs.
That's a fair assumption, because now there's only one team that's not playing this week.
Right. So, yeah, do you take that chance? Do you take the chance of drafting Eagles and Chiefs, knowing that they have, like everybody else, they only have 1 guaranteed game, but the most they can have is 3 games, albeit one of them would be the Super Bowl? Or do you think that there's a wild card round team that can make a run at it and take it all the way? So I think the 49ers are a good bet for that, or at least
49ers are a good bet. Buffalo is a good bet.
So in your fantasy,
Cincinnati, it's a good bet.
Right?
We're not going to talk about that right
drafts, now. 49ers might be good picks because we think they can make a run.
No question.
But we just brought up that Lockett and Metcalf have really good matchups here. You might be able to snag Lockett and Metcalf or Metcalf a little bit lower in a playoff draft, because everybody's going to have the same thought. 49ers are going to win. I'm not going to have these guys, but they might be able to get you a ton of points. And there's going to be a surprise. There's almost always a surprise this weekend. One of the favorites, or one of the teams that we all think is going to make a run or can make a run, is not going to pan out. Okay.
Right. Because if you remember last year, the first weekend of the NFL Wildcard Weekend, the games were all blowouts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Except for the 49ers and the Cowboys. The rest of them were terrible football games. After that, they came down to the last play of every game all the way to the Super Bowl.
Literally the last round.
So I would say if you're going to go with the first weekend is when you want to go with your favorites, because they are more than likely to go at least one more weekend.
So if you don't want to wait, if you want to wait on a quarterback, you could probably pick up a Purdy and have him for a couple of game stretch here. If you would rather spend your early pick on a McCaffrey, on Kittle,
assuming the 49ers win, they have one more home game coming.
Right. So they'll have if they win, they would at least have one more home game and possibly could host it all.
3 if Philadelphia goes down.
Which is as they've played lately, it could happen.
It could happen. So, the 49ers, it makes me want to vomit in my own mouth even talking.
At least you're watching your team this weekend, and I'm not.
Right.
So I'll be watching your team this weekend.
But the 49ers are the smart play. Really, they are.
I think so. I think in a DFS, I think you can go after a couple of the Seahawks, especially Lockett and Metcalf. I think if you're doing a playoff draft, I think you want to load up on 49ers more than Seahawks. If I was taking anybody from the Seahawks, it would be one of the 2 wide receivers, and it would be later in the draft. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to listen to our True Classics here,
devil, so to speak.
We're going to listen to our True Classic spot. We come back on the other side. We're going to hit the night game from Saturday between the Chargers and the Jaguars.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis, or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt to couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BellyUpFantasy. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BellyUpFantasy. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
All right, welcome back from that.
Yep.
We love our True Classic. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank
Yep,
you,
we
Dave.
do.
Yep.
Wives love them, so there you have it.
So our second game of the Saturday slate here, the night game, 8:15 Eastern, where time begins. We got the Chargers 5-point favorites, according to Quarter 4, traveling to Jacksonville, taking on America's new sweethearts, the Jaguars. 48.5 for an over-under here.
Yeah, and you might want to check in the quarter 4 because they are against the mainstream, I guess you could say. Because the Jacksonville, from what I was checking out before we came on, in the regular, they're a 1.5 favorite, and they have an over-under is 47.5, which is different from what quarter 4 had.
Now, yeah, and that over-under 47.5.
There's no chance. If I'm betting and Chargers are -5, I'm taking Jacksonville all day long.
This is a tough game. This is a tough game.
This is the best game out of the weekend.
This is the best matchup, I think, of the weekend. I think it's the toughest matchup to call.
As apprehensive as I am about the first, game, this game I'm all in for.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Now we're talking about, these teams played each other, albeit way back week 3. But you're talking Jacksonville went into SoFi. They absolutely crushed the Chargers. 38-10. That was one of those early season games where everybody kind of they pulled the needle off the record. Whoa, what just happened? Because the Chargers, as was everybody in the AFC West, but the Chargers were a trendy pick to make some noise this year. And hey, they made it. And they did. Yeah, they made the 5 seed. Top wild card.
Which makes it. I'm mystified about how the coach is on the hot seat for the Chargers, but he's got them in the playoffs.
Well, they have
I know that's because of Williams and all.
They have a reputation of that, though. I mean, they fired Marty Schottenheimer after a 14-2 season.
I get that, but come on now.
20, 30 years ago, but they did it.
Right. Yeah. But what's your level of standard if making the playoffs is not enough?
Right.
And it's not like it's not like New England Patriots that make the playoffs or used to every single year. The Chargers have been, one of the sleepwalkingest teams during the regular season up till recent time.
Right.
And he's got them. He's been there 2 years. He has a winning record, and he has them in the playoffs. So what more do you need?
I think a lot of that is people who look at it, and he does try to be a little he's a little unconventional with his choices. I know
he's made some calls where you're like,
he's a younger coach who is looking at analytics and things like that.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't always make the choice everybody thinks he's not always making the Bear Bryant choice. Right.
And so how does that go with his players?
That's what
the players are behind it, then shut it and move on.
For everything I've seen, it looks like they're together on things, and it looks like they roll.
Right.
They're coming off a loss last week. They're coming off a loss to the Broncos.
Well, they had nothing to play for.
But they really didn't have a ton to play for. No, they were.
And that's one of the criticisms he took, like I said, because he left Williams in the game too long, and then he wound up getting taken off the field.
Now
looks like he's going to be okay.
Williams.
Right, he got carted off. It looked from everything I've heard, he's going to be all right.
Everybody
play
thought, here we go
in this game.
But Williams has a back contusion, basically a giant bruise on his back,
and he's been having problems, as we've noted, all season long.
He's had injury problems all season.
Yeah, but maybe having him in the game at that point wasn't the smart play. But It looks like
Herbert in,
he's
they
going
left
to be
Eckler
okay.
in, they left guys in a
Right.
long time. They left Keenan Allen in long enough to get 8 catches for 102 yards and 2 scores. There's a guy, speaking of DFS,
Right.
speaking of fantasy, drafts for playoff drafts, there's a guy that does look like he's back, does look like he's good to go,
Right.
and could be an absolute monster if they
you
make
talk
it out
about
of this game.
the weaknesses. Jacksonville pass defense is a weakness.
Yes.
So therefore,
Yes, it is.
You're cruising right into it. So there's a guy you might want to look into and pay a few dollars for.
Right. There were obviously, we all knew coming into this year, and we suspected that Los Angeles was going to be a good fantasy offense, and they were. Justin Herbert.
And Los Angeles still doesn't sound right, by the way.
Right. I know. I still think of it San Diego. But
I've watched them play. I've been to the San Diego Chargers and seen them play, so it definitely is not right.
Qualcomm.
That's right. I've been to Qualcomm Stadium.
But Justin Herbert finishes the year as quarterback 11, still a starter. Not quite the giant year I think everybody kind of figured he would.
He is kind of plateaued from what we've seen.
He struggled a bit, but then we got to keep in mind too that his top 2 receivers were
missed,
injured for a good portion of the season.
Portions of the season. So yeah.
Now they do have a couple of decent backups.
The running game was in neutral all season long.
Yeah. I mean, Austin Eckler is running back 1 and was great, but it's because he does everything.
He's not the running back running the football.
Right.
No.
So, I mean, Justin Herbert was still a startable quarterback. You've got the overall RB1 with Eckler.
You probably had to draft him a little early to get what you got. If we're talking about fantasy once again, but
with Williams and Allen.
But he wasn't Kyler Murray. All right.
No.
And how do I know that? Because I drafted Kyler Murray. He was not Kyler Murray.
I had a little bit of Herbert exposure. I think I had Herbert in 2-3 leagues. He was kind of the quarter. If I didn't view him as a vanity quarterback necessarily, so I didn't jump on him. I did that in a lot of leagues this year where I actually went quarterback a lot and tight end a lot earlier than I normally do. Instead of waiting on him, I figured I'd switch it up. So I ended up.
Tight end probably didn't work out so well for you.
No, Well, Mark Andrews didn't work out. Travis Kelce worked out where I had him. Dallas Goedert would have worked out.
You take him in the first round, and you're still getting value out of Travis Kelce.
But Justin Herbert, I think he's usable. Like you said, this is a good matchup for him against the Jaguars defense. Justin Herbert's good anyway.
Plus, he had those ribs, and everything else. So, you got to give him a little slack.
So, I mean, again, if we think the Chargers are coming out of this game,
if
we think they can beat the Jaguars,
that's an
offense you would want to load up on.
Yeah, if you're looking at your crystal ball, that is not a prediction that's clear at all.
But here's the thing. Some of it, like I said, is because they're America's new darlings, but Jacksonville did not look dominant last week against.
No, they didn't.
Not Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
Right.
Okay. They were playing Josh Dobbs, an emergency quarterback
for
a team that runs the football.
Dobbs this week.
No.
Okay.
The Chargers are an offense that you could stand to take and load up on it at any position.
And if you look at their defense, they only had 14 interceptions all season long.
Yeah. So this is a game where you're going to get if you want to take your DFS lineups just from this game, you could, depending on how you spend your money, you could probably put a nice stack together just from this game. Herbert is in play and going to be great, and you don't need me to tell you to start the RB1 or to try and get the RB1.
No.
If you think the Chargers can make it through, Austin Eckler could be that guy that actually wins your fantasy championship in the playoffs for you. Because if they make it through, if they play 2-3 games, even if they only play 2 games, Austin Eckler could get enough points in those 2 games to make it worth your while. Right. If you take anybody from the Bills or the Chiefs or not the Bills, if you take anybody from the Eagles or the Chiefs, you might get 3 games out of them. But if the Chargers win this one, you're going to get at least 2 games out of Austin Eckler. 2 games of Austin Eckler is probably worth 2. Yeah. And maybe more.
If you're going to roll the dice on someone Eckler is about as smart a
2
dice
games of
roll as
Austin
there is.
Eckler is probably better than 3 games of Isaiah Pacheco or even Jarek McKinnon catching
Right,
passes. Jarek
absolutely.
McKinnon had a great year, but he doesn't catch passes like
Absolutely, but
Austin Eckler.
he's not Austin Eckler.
2 games of Austin
Nah.
Eckler is probably better than 3 games of Miles Sanders.
Oh,
Or
no
anybody
question.
else that the Eagles are going to throw out. And everybody else who wins this weekend is only guaranteed 2 games as well. So
Right.
Austin Eckler is a guy that I would be looking at hardcore in terms of draft for
Right, and you're gonna, like I said, you're
draft.
gonna pony up money if you're gonna take him. So
You
just
are,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. If you want to try and really hammer on people this week and spend some money, between, like we said, between McCaffrey and Eckler, you're both going to pay through the nose, but they both could have a monster.
And if you don't want to pay that, then what about NTN?
Well,
yeah,
he was a running back too this season, RB17. He was good enough that they got rid of James Robinson.
Right, and the good news is the Chargers are not good against running back.
No, they're a very good matchup for running backs.
Not
Etienne
at all.
did not have a great week last week, but it's against Titans.
No,
Titans are a good run defense.
Titans are is fall down and look like the guy that had too many beers, too late at night, and he was stumbling, bumbling, and fell down in the front yard. Their
but they have
defense
a good run defense.
was and is
they
strong.
Played a good game. They played a good game last week.
They did.
In fact, they won that game. The defense won that game 16-13. Jaguars got a lucky break and had a fumble return with less than 3 minutes in the game. Jaguars defense won them that game. It wasn't Trevor Lawrence that was winning it for him. It wasn't Travis Etienne that won it for him. It wasn't the Jones brothers or Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram or anybody else, Riley Patterson. That game was, the Jacksonville defense won that game because their offense didn't do all that great moving the ball against.
If you started the Jacksonville defense last week, if you were still in fantasy.
Now, I think that they have to go through Etienne because of the matchup and because it is a tough passing matchup against the Chargers. Chargers are one of those teams that, we've looked at it before and we've said, okay, well, some of these teams that are really good, like the 49ers, why do they give up so many fantasy points to wide receivers? Well, the 49ers are winning all the flipping time and teams are always passing on them, right?
It's the opposite with the Chargers.
Chargers are
They're
a good
the number
team.
3 pass defense in the entire NFL.
So it didn't matter if that teams had to pass on them and tried to pass on them all the time. They still shut it down. And that's without Justin Jackson and being big offseason addition and their safety being hurt for half the year. This is a good defense. It's a good team. I don't think this game is a 38-10, blowout, even at home for the Jaguars anymore.
I have to mention this because how about Drew Tranquil? Now, what is that a great name? Is that a great name for a football player or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The linebacker for the Chargers had 146 tackles this year. So
he's good.
Yeah.
They're
he's
good.
146 for him. Derwin James had 115. So they know how to tackle the Chargers.
They've got talent at all 3 levels. They've got guys that can do it at all 3 levels.
That's right. They do. And so
Trevor Lawrence did not look great.
No.
Last weekend.
Of course he didn't.
He looked a little. He looked a little flustered. He looked like he looked a little second yearish. He looked much more like rookie year Trevor Lawrence than what he had in the previous 2 months.
Was coming down the stretch, no question.
Right. But
But he was questionable going into that game. So you have to wonder if that had something to do with it or not. He's not questionable this week. So we'll see.
I think for DFS, if you're building DFS lineups, if you want to pay up for some of these other positions, I do think though that the Jaguars are a place where you can spend a little less money and still get wide receivers that can score for you this week. I made the call last week in my preview article that I put up about the Jaguar game on Saturday.
They do have wide receivers.
I said Christian Kirk was due. The matchup was right against the Titans.
Right.
Sure enough, he goes out and he catches 6 balls for 99 yards and a score, his first score in like 7-8 weeks. So you're welcome all. The Jones brothers, now they didn't come off with great stats last week.
That's why you want to pay
Jones
attention.
Has gotten targets. Yep. Zay Jones will be a cheap option that could still score you enough points for a DFS.
121 targets to be exact this year. Right. Kirk had 133, right? Ingram 98, 73 catches, 73 catches.
Yeah,
so you talk about a guy
he had the year we always thought he was supposed to have.
Nowhere. Ingram's your guy. So
good for him.
If you're looking for a tight end who's not going to cost a lot, that might be the guy right there.
Ingram would be a great tight end matchup there. I mean, it's not a good matchup defensively, but it's not a terrible one.
No.
Chargers are, 20th in my rankings against, or give up the 20 most points. So like, I mean, yeah, they're not a great matchup, but it's not a terrible matchup for Evan Ingram. Ingram gets his targets there. He had 4 catches on 4 targets for 27 yards only last week, but he sees looks all over the field. They use him between the 20s. They use him in the red zone.
That's right.
I think Zay Jones over Marvin Jones, but between Kirk and Zay Jones, you could spend a little less money and still get some production this week out of a DFS lineup so that you can go spend the money on Eckler, McCaffrey, somebody like that, or one of the
absolutely. Zay Jones would be a guy that I would target.
If you want to go spend money for Josh Allen, save a little bit of money, pick up a Zay Jones type. That same token, you want to look at, say, Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter now from the Chargers. Williams looks like he's going to be a go.
Yeah,
will he be limited in that game? Will he last that whole game?
Yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into Palmer. I like him a lot. He's produced this year when they needed him to.
I like Palmer. I like him a lot better when either.
But that's not
Allen
an
or Williams
offense that's going to be playing 4 wide receivers.
No, but if Williams doesn't play, you could plug Palmer in. And I mean, so I'm talking now, I'm shifting strategies to the draft, to a playoff draft, where late in your playoff draft, you could take a shot on a Josh Palmer and you might end up with a charm. If Williams gets re-injured in this game or is limited the whole playoffs,
which has happened this year,
much,
where he played and he was out by the first end of the first quarter.
And if you think the Chargers play more than 1 week, which I think I do, somebody late in your draft that you could take, for a wide receiver would be Palmer, and you could spend your earlier picks on guys that you feel more sure about. But in this game, the Jaguars somehow had the 6th ranked fantasy defense this season, but I don't like playing them against the Chargers if you can get away from it.
Right. The Chargers are a whole different beast to me altogether.
Right. Patterson's a good kicker. It's a decent kicking matchup, but I don't know how many points I think Jaguars are going to score.
Buffalo,
right.
We'll talk about that Sunday, but they have a much better matchup.
I agree with you that I like Ingram, but if we want to stick with the tight end theme, and again, now we'll flip back to DFS because I want to make that clear. Jaguars are a good matchup for a tight end. Gerald Everett is a good tight end.
That's right.
He only had 8 yards receiving last week, folks, but he had 3 catches and a touchdown. They don't have to throw deep to him because they've got guys that can do that. They've already got DeAndre Carter and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Josh Palmer for that.
Right.
They don't necessarily have to throw to him a ton underneath because they've already got Austin Eckler to do that. But he is still their tight end option, and he is still the one that sees more, like, say, red zone targets than Donald Parham or Trey McKitty, the other 2 tight ends that they carry. They have a good deep wide tight end core. I like all 3 of their tight ends in terms of players. But Gerald Everett would be a guy that you would not have to pay a ton for necessarily,
right,
who could really fill out that tight end slot. And if
you're
you
right
want to
about
draft
him
again, if you want to draft the tight end that you think can score you some points in 2 or 3 games and not have to try and jump early on Kelsey or Kittle or what have you, that's another possibility there. It would be Gerald Everett for them. Should be a good matchup though. Real quick,
I agree.
I want to touch on some betting
props. It should be, and
out of this game.
If you happen to see Jaguars plus 5, jump all over it.
Yeah. I think that it'll be. I don't think it's going to be 38-10 either direction like it was last time out with them. And and I think it'll be a
No.
much closer game. It's a tough game for me to pick. My heart keeps wanting to say Jacksonville because I, like everybody else, like the underdog story. Even though they're hosting the Chargers, they have a worse record than the Chargers.
Take that into your equation.
And, yeah. But the Chargers just have such talent, top to bottom, on that roster.
And it's finally coming together.
Yeah.
Like we have not seen from them in times past.
What a great matchup. And
It should,
be all
to
alone.
me, that's the game out of all 6 of these games that we could talk about.
Right.
That's the game of the weekend to me.
And keep looking at it and keep watching.
That's
now,
right.
Let's take a look here now real quick. I want to hit on a couple of numbers from some betting props from both games, and we'll see if we think we want to go over or under on some of these.
All right, let's check this out.
From the folks at Quarter4, they've got Eli Mitchell's rushing touchdown total at 0.5. So is he going to score a touchdown or is he going to be held out of the end zone? Do you think Mitchell scores or no?
I'm touchdown. I'm going touchdown. Got to against that Seahawks defense. Yes.
I think that would be a good bet. I think I would take over a half. I would take Eli Mitchell to score a touchdown there.
A
rushing touchdown.
And him scoring touchdowns.
I could see CMC coming. I could see CMC bringing one in from the 18-yard line on a swing pass.
Right.
But I think I like Mitchell to get a rushing score inside the 5 or 10.
Take it.
I agree with that. Geno Smith passing yards 216.9. Over under
216. That's not a lot.
Essentially 217.
I'm going over
on that. Okay.
Not maybe, but not by a lot, but I'm going over.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think I'd take the over on that too.
Take the over, considering who he's throwing to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if he can get 80 and 70 yards to just Metcalf and Lockett together, if he can get, so that's 150. He's only got to get 67 more yards there to Fant and Walker and DJ Dallas and everybody else.
Right.
I think I can take the over on that one. Michael Dixon punts 6.2. Is he going to punt 7 times in a game?
No.
He only punted 6 times in a game 3 times this year. He only punted 7 times in a game once this year. It was about 3-4 weeks ago. That's a lot of punts in a game, but he's also facing the 49ers.
Right.
I agree with you, though. I don't think he gets that many. If for no other reason than I don't necessarily know that they get enough drives to both score points and punt ball 7 times.
Right.
If you want to go over that, you're talking 7 punts in a game, and he did it once this season.
If he had said 5.5, I would have gone over.
I would go under that 6.2. Now watch him come out and get shut out, and punts 8 times.
We're not talking about that out loud.
Fred Warner, 49er linebacker. Fred Warner, total tackles 7.6. You think Fred Warner's got 8 tackles in him?
Over, easily.
So. If they keep trying to establish the run with Walker, I would like the over on that one as well. Okay, let's look at the Charger Jaguar game. Just a couple of props that they've got here on their hot prop list. Riley Patterson, Jaguars kicker, field goals made 1.8. You think Riley Patterson's got 2 field goals in him against Chargers?
I think so.
Think so?
I think so. If he does, then maybe that's not a good sign.
I think if he's over that, it means that they're not finding the end zone, obviously.
That's right.
And I think they're going to have to find the end zone against the Chargers. Justin Herbert passing yards, 279.3. So we're talking 280 yards to make the over.
I'm going to go under. I think the running game.
You think they lean more on Eckler and Kelly there and running the ball than they do
I don't
tossing it up top.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I might be talking myself out of it as I'm talking, but because the running game for the Chargers has not been good, and so 280. I'm going to say I said under before. I'm going over now.
Yeah.
Over. If they win this game, it's going to be over.
I think I'll go under. I'll contradict you on that one. We'll shake it out next week and see how it goes. I think
that
I'll
was
go
my
under.
First intent, was to go under, but if they win this game, it's going to be over.
Christian Kirk, 5.3 receptions Over under. Think he catches 5 or 6 balls?
Over.
You think over?
I think he's going over.
If they're going to win that game, I think they have to go over.
They have if Jacksonville's in this game at all, he has to have more than that.
I would like to be wrong, but I'm going to go the under on that. I don't think he makes 6 catches. Trevor Lawrence passing yards 275.4.
Under.
I will go under there as well.
I think that he'd need more than that for them to be winners. But no.
But again, look how long we hemmed and hawed on if Justin Herbert was going to throw for 280 yards or not.
Right.
This is a good matchup. This is a good game.
Right.
I am looking
100%. I agree.
Because it's not. I mean, obviously they played once before, but it was. I mean, we were talking 3-4 months ago by now.
Yeah, which means
you got to throw 38-10 out the window.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know now that they can do it. That the Jaguars can win this game, but
of course they can. They're at home.
Yeah.
A and B, they've been playing some of the best football down the stretch. Last weekend, notwithstanding.
Right.
So,
I mean,
it's going to be a good game, I think.
Justin Herbert went over 279 point. I mean, this is why the people in Vegas do what they do. Justin Herbert had over 279.3 yards 8 times this season.
Okay. I could buy it.
8 times out of 17 games. I mean,
So it's a 50-50 shot, basically.
Right. It's essentially because week 1, he was dead ass on that at 279. So he had 8 games over that amount, 8 games under that amount, and 1 game right on that amount. How they come up with this kind of stuff in Vegas is how they end up with all of our money.
Right. That's why they have the supercomputer that's probably hooked up to satellites and,
Now, last time out against Jacksonville, he threw 45 passes. He threw for almost 300 yards, but it was not one of his more efficient games. I think I'll stick with my under on that one for Justin Herbert. But
if he throws 45 passes, that's probably not a good sign either.
Nope. So again, DFS wise, if you want to pay up for Eckler, you can. I think that you can get some receivers from this game cheap, unless you go Allen. Allen's going to be expensive as all hell. But
absolutely.
Otherwise, I think you can go for some cheap receivers in this one to fill out your DFS rosters. If you want to pay up for guys if you want to pay premium prices for running back or at quarterback or at tight end, I think there's bargains to be had here at tight end as well. If you're drafting for playoff leagues, I think I'm more comfortable taking Chargers early than I am Jaguars because I just don't necessarily. I have a better feeling about the Chargers winning this game than I do the Jaguars winning this game. And I think that there's more explosion and more points to be had if you come out of this game with a Charger than if you come out of this game with a Jaguar. If you skip up a Charger and you take one of the Jaguars and you only get 1 game out of him, great. You only got 1 game out of him, but you've got other people who could move on. But if you draft the Charger and you come out of this game with them, now you know you got points. You're going to get good points here for several games. You don't necessarily know that whoever you come out of if the Jaguars win this game, you don't know that Etienne's going to score you 20 points a week.
No.
Eckler, that's like the expectation.
Right.
Is 20 points a week.
But he's got the additional, aspect of his game.
Right. And with the Jaguars,
the
Jaguars have Jamal Agnew that they kind of split running back, wide receiver hybrid kind of thing. So they don't necessarily throw to Etienne all that often.
No.
Certainly they don't use him.
He can certainly do that.
Yeah.
We've seen it at Clemson, him do that.
Right.
But
it's not that he can't.
This is the NFL now. So
it's just that, they typically have not necessarily used him like that this season. So you got picks on the games real quick. You want to throw out I know you're a Seahawk fan, and I know we've kind of been hemming and hawing and doom and glooming them.
Yeah.
You got a pick for the 49ers Seahawks game?
Unfortunately, Seahawks win. Seahawks are what am I talking about? See, my brain is trying to, my body's going ahead of my brain.
Your heart,
the 49ers are going to win. Yeah, the 49ers are going to win. It's not a good matchup for the Seattle Seahawks.
No.
And I would pretty much rather have my right hand cut off than watch the 49ers win.
I would have I would have felt much better with the Seahawks matching up elsewhere. I really will.
Right.
Well, but I would have felt better about anybody matching up elsewhere because the 49ers,
the
not only are the
49ers
49ers
the most
good,
dangerous team to me. So
not only are they
49ers
good, but
are
they're
gonna
playing
win.
better football than anybody.
that's right. They've
The
won 10
Vikings
in
have
a
not
row.
looked good lately.
Nobody
The
has won 10
Eagles
in a
have not
row.
looked good lately.
Right?
The
Philadelphia's not
Buccaneers
looked
haven't looked
good.
good all year.
Minnesota has not looked good.
No.
Buffalo has had some stumbles. And
The 49ers are the team that is playing the best right now.
49ers have not stumbled. Have
No.
not. So the
It doesn't matter who
49ers
they
are
throw
going to
back there
win.
for quarterback right
And,
now. The 49ers got it going on.
I think that the Chargers minus that Chargers are favored by 5 points. I'm like, no. Are we saying Chargers are 5-point underdogs? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I mean, the quarter four, our partners in quarter four, our friends over there say that they've got the Chargers as 5-point favorites. Like you said,
Okay, so
a lot of
5-point
Vegas has the
favorites. That's insane. That's what I thought. This whole episode, that's what I thought you were saying.
Yep.
That's insane to me. There's no way that the Chargers are going to beat the Jaguars by more than 5. No chance.
All right.
And
so what's your pick on that game then?
My pick is, I'm going to go against the Green. I'm going to say the Jaguars are going to win this game. They're at home, and that's all the more they need. The lights will be bright. Chargers on the other coast. So
right.
I'm going Jaguars, but I would not certainly be surprised if the Chargers win because they have a quality team over there.
That is an aspect that you want to keep in mind. Like you said, we've got a West Coast team traveling about as far east as they can travel.
Right. And the only good thing for them is they're playing later on in the day. They're not having to play at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
Their body time.
5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. No, they're playing a night game, which is basically a afternoon or the 1 o'clock slot for them. I'm going to go Chargers with this one.
Okay.
I think we both picked the 49ers, I think, straight up. I'm going to go Chargers on this one. However,
you don't have to be, a genie, all right, to figure that one out.
But if you get the Chargers at if the Chargers are given 5 points.
Yeah, if you're getting 5 points in the Chargers.
I would take the Jaguars against that. I'll take the Jaguars
I'm all over that
spread.
I'm thinking over under is 48.5. I'm probably going under that.
I think I'll go under that one as well. 45.5 Seahawks Niners.
45.5. Probably go under on that too.
You think that's a 28-13 type game? You think the Seahawks?
That's what I'm thinking right there. Wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe a little over that, but I'm comfortable with the under on that.
I'd go under on both of them too, I think. All right, there we have it.
All right, you go. So you beat the feet to the casino. Let's get going on these bets. So you heard it.
Right. All right. You can find us. You're gonna find us right back here. Same time as always on Sunday morning. We'll preview the rest of the slate, the weekend, the Super Wildcard Weekend slate. There is
3 games. Three
games on Sunday.
And you got one on Monday, which everybody around here is buzzing about because, of course, it's the Cowboys. So
right, but
they need to be buzzing because that last game they played was like they were playing against a runaway, a steamroller, and they were underneath it.
Yeah,
because they're
not necessarily coming in on a hot streak either.
No, 26 to 6.
I like the Niners
not
to come
a hot
through.
streak. All right,
but we will be back here. It'll be 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern here on Belly Up Media, previewing all of the games, the rest of the games from this weekend. The other 4 games, the 3 on Sunday, the Monday night game. What else can we expect from you coming up here? Or what else do you have coming up?
Well, if you get over there to the Belly Up Fantasy website, I wrote my first baseball article of the new year, and I highlight who I believe should be the number 1 overall pick in a fantasy draft, depending on the platform you're using.
AJ Pollock.
And so,
It's an AJ Pollock, you homer.
AJ Pollock. If you pick AJ Pollock in the first round, let alone at the top of the draft, then you need to cease and desist in all fantasy baseball activities. All
I
right.
kid, AJ. I kid.
Yeah,
If you watch this, because I know he probably tunes in every week.
that's right. AJ, and he's on the Mariners there.
Yeah,
I believe.
they just signed him. They just signed him
Okay,
this past
Mariners. All right.
week.
So
That's what I said. A homer pick
that's
for
a good
number
place
one
to
overall.
be out there. So
Spoiler alert:
anyhow,
he didn't go first overall.
No, so you can be relatively positive that AJ Pollock did not appear in my article at any point, and you could be probably pretty sure he will not appear in any articles going forward. So, as I mentioned, get over there to the Belly Up Fantasy website, and you can expect. All I need to know from ESPN and these other platforms is when are we going to start getting mock drafts for baseball?
Right.
As soon as that happens,
looking ahead, going forward.
you because next month it's January. Next month spring training begins, if you can believe it.
Getting close.
Yeah,
Pitchers
so
and catchers
mock
are
drafts
coming.
need to be a thing sooner or later, and once that happens, I'm sure I'll have something to say about that.
Excellent. Well, you can always find me at STT Chase FFB on the Twitter
That's
machine
right.
there. Later this week, Friday, I will have some rankings out for these playoff league
Get
draft
over there.
rankings. I'll put an article out on that. I'll also have some DFS picks for you for this weekend, as well as maybe a game preview or two. So you can check that out over at bellyupfantasysports.com. As always, check out the other great shows on Belly Up Media. Hit like, subscribe, all of that.
There are a lot of shows. Get over there. Check them out.
Yep. You know us. You love us. Now I get to see everybody else. All right.
That's right.
Thanks for being here, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thanks for being with
always
us,
a pleasure.
everybody. And we will see you Sunday morning.
Remember, 10 o'clock Central.
That's right. And until then, Slanjava.